Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and this morning I'm looking at a textbook from Routledge. It's in the Unlocking the Law series of books which they've produced, and this one is on constitutional and administrative law. The title is Unlocking Constitutional and Administrative Law. It's now in a third edition and it's been written by Mark Ryan with a contribution from Steve Foster. We've given it a title. My wife and I, Elizabeth, and I have actually looked at this and had a discussion about it. We've written the title for the book review, an entirely new and groundbreaking style of undergraduate law textbook for constitutional and administrative law using interactive materials. I'll talk about the review in a minute, but let's look at the book. It's here. It's a glossy, it's heavy. Third edition, there's the front, the spine and the back. It's got a companion website. You can see the little logo there on the bottom. It's also on the back as well. It runs to something like 600 pages. You've got a standard format for all of these Unlocking series books. There's the index at the back. And then what you've got is you lead into a whole series of important points. Key facts are very helpful, I think. The paragraph numbering at the side is also helpful to find things quite quickly. You've got some case examples, not particularly case heavy on constitutional law, but administrative law has some very juicy little judicial review cases. Modern function of the House of Commons is set there. And of course you've got again key facts which are very helpful, quotations. You've got some diagrams as well just to give you some idea. That's on the different powers of the state. Then you've got right at the beginning a whole series of useful points. There's the front page and you can then see the contents. Now the contents run through quite a bit. I'll just show you those very quickly. As I say, it's a heavy book, this one, because it's glossy, but you can see that the contents pages are quite detailed. Again, running through the powers of the executive there, and decentralisation of public powers. European Convention on Human Rights, a very important burning issue of the day at the moment. We're getting near the end. Freedoms there, freedom of speech and the Human Rights Act. Then we've got judicial review. We're getting to the administrative law area, which is at the back. And then, in fact, the total number of topic areas covered are 21 in total. Then there are acknowledgements from various people. A useful short preface, just to get some idea of what's in the book itself and what Mark Ryan was aiming to do. Then there's a guide to the book which you want to read, because it's quite useful to know. There is a website to go with this. And as I say, there's the companion website. You need to follow what's in. There are some more points there. It's very much designed for the student and the tutor. Cases of listed there. There are not that many in this area, and most of them are administrative law cases. Then statutes, of course, which you will have quite a few. Various other bits and pieces. Then we start with the introductory concepts. Another little diagram there which sets out the distinction between public law and private law, as very basic statements. And as I say, you've got the paragraph numbering at the sides, and you've got some useful little subheadings there, just to give you a little pointer in the right direction as to what it is. Then you have activities. You can call them whatever you want. They're self-testing mechanisms basically, and they are very useful, I think, certainly for distance learners whom I teach, and also for anybody who's actually reading the book. And perhaps if you want to just refresh your memory, you can zip through it quite quickly and have a look at those areas which you may need to just brush up your knowledge on. Now, as I say, we've given this an interesting title, and this is what we say about the book. Mark Ryan and Steve Foster have produced an excellent statement of the main points of study for both constitutional and administrative law. They're always linked together basically at this level. It caters for undergraduates looking for a departure from the traditional law texts available, and I think they've succeeded admirably with this. It's very much a modern way of teaching, and it's now merging, in terms of learning objectives, the main textbook with what you've got on the web, which of course is as up to date as you can be. What they set out then as the authors is, in this excellent title, is a formidable explanation of the subject of the two linked areas of constitutional law and administrative law. It's written in easily understandable terms for what can be a difficult area of law for many people to either teach or study. It may look, of course, quite easy superficially, but there's a lot of detail, and actually constitutional law to quite a lot of people is really a turn-off because it's about politicians and politics, and a lot of people don't want to know anything about that area. The thing is, you've got to study a bit of it, and you've got to have some idea about how public law actually operates. And also, if you're in practice, when you're up against the state, whether it's local government or central government, it's useful to have some idea of how they're actually structured, unless you've been a civil servant, as I have, where you've seen the innermost workings of central government, as I have. And of course, I've been a local authority councillor on two different authorities, so I've seen the way they operate as well. So it gives you some idea in terms of practice of what you're up against. The section, I think, on human rights is particularly important and of great assistance to those new to this area of law. It's also going to be clearly a big issue for the next year or so, because we have the general election in May 2015. I'm recording this in the autumn of 2014, and you can see that there's going to be a major conflict between the big parties on the future of the human rights legislation. So do bear that in mind. It must be probably a question in the exam hall. As with all the Routledge textbooks, this particular title is probably the best on the market as an introduction to the way in which constitutional and administrative law operates in England and Wales, and the self-testing through the activities throughout the book with the various activities that are listed will give you some great assistance, I think, in measuring your progress throughout the course. I never really did activities when I was a student, but they've come in quite a big way, and it's nice because it breaks up the text a bit. Otherwise it's extremely boring just reading through the whole of the very dry paragraphs. We also consider that the book has a much wider potential readership for anyone interested in the development of this particular area of law. Judicial review in particular is always controversial. There are some fairly substantial changes to tighten it up at the moment by the Ministry of Justice, so it's quite important again to know you will always get a question on judicial review, so you do need to know your case law for that. And again, it gives you a lot of useful information. One of the main reasons why I like Routledge is because they're both, in terms of what they're producing, they're outstanding value both in terms of cost and content. And you know you've got authors who are legal experts explaining substantial law issues in a readable fashion, and that's what you've got here. Now, so for both tutors and learners, a decision on which textbook or revision book to use is always going to be a difficult choice, but it's clear to us from the feedback that we've received from talking to both tutors and learners that this is actually the leader in the field at the moment, which is why I'm doing the review, of course. Many of their titles also have these excellent links to the websites. You've got the main companion website, and you've got another website which is unlockingthelaw.co.uk, which again will, if you go into that, you will see what is available to you. As I say, I like the websites because they do assist and they keep you up to date, because the law has been changing in some areas quite quickly and it is difficult keeping up to date. Always make sure you have the most recent textbook, because the old textbooks are actually not really worth very much because they're completely out of date. What we would say about the formatting of this is the way that Routledge have attended to their task. It's now become much more of a mainstream formula for legal text, the way they've set everything out, and I think it eases the students into the methods of legal reasoning for those who are just beginning their legal studies, and they're certainly helpful for a wide range of people. They're helpful for our preparation when we're actually doing lectures and presentations, but so doing sure that you look very carefully at these particular titles that are on offer. The Unlocking series, which Routledge have produced, use a number of special features which I'll identify here. They've got aims and objectives at the start of each chapter, key fact charts to consolidate knowledge, diagrams to aid learning. They're relatively simple diagrams as well, I would hasten to add. Summaries to help check an understanding of each chapter. Problem questions with guidance on answering, and a glossary of legal terminology. Can I just say, you don't get that many problem questions in this paper. It's much more the bread and butter essay or narrative questions. But however, you do get some, and that's where you can score the high marks, because that's where the examiner is looking for your ability to argue succinctly the points perhaps on both sides of an issue which is a hard case. So for us reviewing the book, I think the companion website is an innovation. It's certainly the way forward with the way that we're conducting our teaching methods, and I'm very grateful because things have changed so much in the last sort of 50 years that I've been involved in education, so I'm very pleased to see, you know, the way they've actually moved forward. There's much food for thought throughout this excellent primer, and it's where we are at the moment, where we're going with current constitutional law and administrative law issues in the 21st century. They're always going to be with us, and there are big and important issues to consider. For instance, the Scottish referendum could have caused a major constitutional headache for Parliament had the yes vote been successful. You've also got the ongoing issue of judicial review, how far it can extend, why should it be as cheap as it is, and well, you just have to look at the figures to see how very many of the applications for review, judicial review, fail at the first hurdle. So in essence it means they probably haven't got much of a case. However, it's still trying to bring, where you feel as an aggrieved party a problem with an local authority or government, is trying to bring them to account. So you have to get that balance in the public law area. Let me conclude by saying the book covers all the main topic areas on the undergraduate and the professional law syllabuses, and it provides a full understanding of each. And as I say, there is the unlockingthelaw.co.uk website which you should go on. It'll give you an indispensable foundation of understanding of what is an important area of public law. Now, what I'm going to do is just show you the book again very quickly. There it is. It is heavy, 600 pages. Again, you've got the index. You've also got that short little glossary. I'll just get it for you. There's not a lot by way of glossary information. It's right at the back, but it is worth looking at because there are some words probably that you might like to just refresh your memory as to what they mean. You do have further reading, which again is very useful at the back. Articles, papers and internet links. And as I say, the internet itself is very important in this day and age. Now, an interesting case here. I remember Helen Marshall. This is the Marshall case versus Southampton, South West Hampshire Area Health Authority. And that's one concerning the European Union. And Mrs. Marshall was trying to get some equality about retirement. She's a lovely lady, and I remember her well. And she went to the Court of Appeal and all sorts of backwards and forwards case, issues which she had. The one problem was it took a tremendous amount of time. This was a youngish lady who, by the time everything finished, was actually quite an older lady, but she was doughty, as a really doughty fighter. Anyway, that's a nice case just to give you an example of. Then you've got other things there. The Jackson case, which is quite interesting there, mentioned. So you've got a lot of human interest stuff which is available. Then, as I say, you've got these activities which are self-testing questions. Then a rather useful structure there. You can see a little diagram. You'd get these if you have the PowerPoint presentations. But as I say, I'm very pleased with the Unlocking series. I think they're very good, very up-to-date, very, I suppose you'd use the word apposite for what you want to do, but I think what they're producing here is first class and will enable you to get good marks in the exam. Good luck with your exams, and I hope that this helps you, and thank you to the authors and to Routledge. Bye-bye.